At the age of 5, you had your first public recital. Since then, you've performed and won prizes across the globe. You also won the silver medal in the prestigious Hilton Head International Piano Competition. And now you're pursuing your doctorate of musical arts here in the United States. If you could describe yourself with one word, what would it be?
I would say persistence. My mother, my Chinese name is Diyi, right? So Yi means persistence. Yes. So my mother, Di means inspiration. Yes. So my mother was a great believer of 99% of persistence with 1% of inspiration. So I think, since I play the piano almost every single day for almost 30 years, so persistence is a word reflect me.
Bridge, dreamer.
Dedicated.
Experienced.
Curious.
Hopeful.
Meticulous.
Diyi Tang was first introduced to the piano at the age of 3 by his mother. At age 12, he was awarded first prize in the Shanghai Young Pianist Competition. It was following this achievement that Diyi knew he wanted to devote his life to the piano. So Diyi, can you tell me, how did you first begin studying piano?
I would say my first piano teacher was my mother. And she taught me about 1 year and a half. And she sent me to a teacher who teach in the Shanghai Conservatory. So since very young, I am already on the track of going to be a professional musician.
Was there ever a time that you considered doing something else, pursuing a different interest, or did you stick to piano?
That's very interesting because I don't have many chance to think about something else. My mother would let me practice piano every day from morning to the evening. So I would love to do something else, but it's only in my mind.
You spent so much time being made to practice by your parents, going to school, having people kind of show you what you had to do. Was there a moment where it became absolutely clear to you what you had to do to achieve a goal that was suddenly clearer than ever?
Yes, there was a moment like when I won the first competition in Shanghai City. And after that competition, it's very clear to me that I will be a pianist. There's nothing else in the life would carry me away from the piano. Yes, of course I have lots of interesting habit. Like I love to sports. I like running. I like playing some tennis or things, but nothing like piano. So piano is the only thing I can do very well, and So after the competition, I realized I will be a pianist.
He's a wonderful, wonderful musician, pianist, but more than that, I feel, as a person, being an artist, being a musician, there's also the side of being a great person. And I think he has his characteristics are really wonderful. He perseveres, he thinks, he looks at situations from all angles, and he, just doesn't give up.
You need to have differentiation. That's really what it is. It's like I come from a marketing background, so every brand has to be distinctive. That's what everybody tries for, right? And an artist is the same way. People have to know you. They kind of know what kind of artist you are. Is it something they like? And then they will identify with that. So you have to be known for something that's a little distinctive. You just can't be another pianist. People don't buy tickets to go hear another pianist or another violinist, They always want to know something special about that particular person. The first level, you just have to get past the basics. Meaning you have to be good enough to perform at Carnegie Hall, in a recital, and you have to go to wherever, and people have to say, oh, you play well. And that's the basic. Then after that, you then have to say, okay, what's going to distinguish me so that when I'm at that higher level, I can have people who want to come see me specially, as opposed to going next door or next week to another concert.
Is there a certain musician that you draw a lot of inspiration from, or someone that you look up to as a pianist?
There are many. There are a lot of musicians I really admire. Like, for example, Horowitz. He is one of my musical idol. And also, I really admire my piano teachers in Shanghai. I will have to mention their names. Professor Yu Dachun, he was the first piano teacher who taught me how to communicate with people, to use the heart to play in the music. And also, I have another great teacher who is also a great composer, Wang Jianzhong. And he taught me a great deal about how to think about the music, how to practice the piano, how to analyze the music. And even without the piano, you can learn a great deal. So this is what I learned from him. And really, I still think, lots of time, what would they do, what they think now, when I play the piano.
Interesting. So do you personally put more emphasis on either the communicative element or on the intellectual element of piano?
Yes.
Or are they rather equal?
It's very equal, actually. You have to think, okay, you have to have a plan. For example, a piece of music in front of you, what you want to do, okay? Because, every composer is very different. For example, Beethoven, Chopin, to the modern composer, their mentality is different. And also their background. Yeah, like Beethoven is deaf when he was very young, so he cannot actually hear the music. All he can hear is inside. So you have to capture that kind of feelings. So this is not only about how many piano skills you practice. You have to feel that, and then you have a direction and how to approach this kind of music. Yes. Mm-hmm.
In the fall of 2001, Diyi was granted a scholarship to study piano at Yale University. The day before he'd be issued his visa, however, was the day of the September 11th attacks in New York City. Unable to go to America until 4 months later, and with his scholarship already given away, Diyi had a fortunate meeting with a Mannes professor, who invited him to study at the Mannes College of Music. So eventually, you went on to study in the United States at Mannes.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you come to pursue both your undergraduate and graduate studies there?
I supposed to study in Yale University. The day my visa was issued is on the September 12th, 2001 in China. So we all know that September 11th event happened. So very second day, they call me. They say, "Oh, Mr. Tang, I'm very sorry that your visa was cannot be issued today because our embassy is closed." And I asked them, say, how long does it take for you to reopen your embassy? They say, "I'm sorry, we don't know that." So, which means my study will be delayed. And of course, I told Yale University it's not my fault, there's nothing I can do about it. But the second call I received from embassy was January 22nd, 2002. It's already 4 months later, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Tang, your visa is ready, so you are good to go." So, I just get the visa and buy the air ticket and come to to New York. And second day I just went to the New Haven, and the school looked at me like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh my God, I'm here for the study, And they said, "Very unfortunately, you're so late, and your scholarship has been given to other students." I was like, "Oh my God, what am I supposed to do now?" And so I met my professor in Mannes right after this. I'm very, very lucky. And then she said, "Oh, why don't you audition in Mannes? And you play so beautifully. We should be able to get you a very good, scholarship." So, this is how I transfer myself, relocate myself from Yale University to Mannes.
I think the key thing is not to think about making it in America. I mean, in the past, America was the market. China was basically closed, and it was hard to get to other markets, you know, in Eastern Europe or other place like that. But today, the market is a world. Everything is part of the same marketplace. If you look at where performers play, they play, you know, in New York, and then Russia, and then Brussels, and then Shanghai, and then, you know, Singapore. It's a world market. So I think that you need to think of yours that way. I think he's suited to that because he grew up here. He understands America. He obviously understands China, and you know, he will be able to move in this world market, which is a much bigger market than just the American market.
In 2006, you really came to prominence through the Hilton Head International Piano Competition in South Carolina. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and why it was so important for your career as a pianist?
Yes, I think this is the first piano competition I ever participated in the United States since I came to the United States. And so this competition really taught me how to play in the United States and how to prepare myself as a pianist in the United States. You know, so after this competition, I also win another competitions like in the Virginia Wearing last year, and also in the Russian International Music Competition, also winning Capelle. So I think this is a very important competition I went to, and it taught me a great deal how to play in the United States. Yes.
So what have you found is the biggest difference between preparing for a concert in China versus in the United States?
Basically, it's lots of things in common. But musically, these two countries, of course, the United States influenced a great deal by the Europe. And the Chinese, you know, China's tradition was influenced by Russia. So the music taste-wise, it's very different. You know, so for example, we learned lots of very virtuosic repertoire in China. But here we focus more on the classical side, like what Beethoven wants, what Mozart want, you know, go deeper into the music.
So besides performing, you also have a dual perspective on studying music based on the Shanghai Conservatory experience and your experience at Mannes. How would you compare music education between the two countries?
In China, you know, my teacher, you know, the mentality is a little bit different. For example, if I have a question, I go to Chinese teacher, they will say, "Oh, how come you don't understand this question?" But they would tell you the answer, and they let you practice hundreds and hundreds of times, and make sure next time you don't ask the same question. But in the United States, if you have a question, you go to teacher, and they would say, "What do you think?" Okay, they really encourage you to discover your own answer. Yeah, so you know, in the end, your answer probably not match what your teachers, but it's your own. And since I came to the United States, I feel like you know, music is not only about piano. It's a music about so many things, arts form, like dance, like orchestra, like opera, you know, and also human being. Who you are really reflect in your music.
Present, we have lots of Chinese contemporary composers, but really no contemporary Chinese contemporary pianist. On occasion, a well-known Chinese pianist will play one of our traditional folk songs as an encore, but there has really been no one to date except for Diyi, who has thought how to play and arrange a Chinese traditional piece, you know, and rearrange it and you know, really make it work for them.
Currently pursuing his Doctorate of Musical Arts at Rutgers University, Diyi is interested in widening the scope of the piano repertoire to include more Chinese compositions. Although a performer at heart, Diyi is dedicated to music education. Both a piano teacher and young pianist talent show judge, Diyi hopes that, no matter where young pianists go with their music, they will be guided by love.
The piano is a Western instrument, so it was brought by the missionaries to China, the Protestant missionaries. So, the first music that you learn to play is always, Western classical. And it was really during the Cultural Revolution, during the 70s, 60s, and 70s, that the musicians in China were asked to, bring traditional folk songs and to make them mainstream. And thus there are quite a few songs that my uncle rearranged for the piano, and compositions that he did, which Diyi plays.
You do a lot of classical music that's European-inspired. You've worked with Russian-inspired music. Do you have any music that relates more to your heritage as a Chinese person?
Yes, I recently play lots of Chinese contemporary music, and also my passion is about, discover more modern music. For example, American composer like Lowell Lieberman, and also John Corigliano, and in Europe like Boulez. I think that's very interesting. Music is, to me, is not only about the past, the history, and also where the music going to, the classical music. For example, this time I'm very honored to invite by to play in the Phoenix project. Xu Bing has this gigantic, phoenix hanging in a cathedral. That's fantastic, because the cathedral is the very European things. It's very historical. But the phoenix give you the feeling that this is going forward. So I performed Wang Jianzhong's piece, the hundreds of birds worshiping the phoenix under these two gigantic birds. So I immediately feel like I'm a transport, I'm a connection between the history and the future. So this has really inspired me a lot. So after that, I think a lot about future. It's not only about the play the modern music, but also you can think about the way how you play the classical music in a way of future. So this is something I'm very interested in, and I discovered, and I want to spend more time to do.
In his particular case, I see a future for him in the fact that it's good to be Chinese these days if you know something about Chinese music and musical history. And he happens to be doing his PhD about Chinese music related to Western music. So he will be one of the experts, both scholarly-wise as well as musically. And then, of course, he can play. So this is kind of a relatively unknown part of the repertoire. We know the Germans and we know the Russians and all that, but we really don't know much about Chinese music. So I think that he has an opportunity to develop in that regard as one of the pianists who has that to bring with him. So that's what you need as an artist, a point of distinction, and I think that he's in the process of developing that. So I think it's going to be promising.
Do you have any specific plans once you get your degree?
Yes, I think on top of everything, I still want to be a performer, because this is something I have been doing for like 25, 26 years, and I've been performing around. But also because, I studied in the Shanghai Conservatory and also here in Mannes and in Rutgers. I also have very strong academic background. So I wanna pass my experience to the next generation musicians, and I think there's lots of things I can offer, from how to be a performer, how to go to a competition, and how to think about the music. There are lots of things to say. Yeah, and also recently I spoke with my little daughter. She's only 2 years old. Yes, and she said, I want to hear Daddy to play the piano. I immediately feel the hope. I feel the future of the classical music.
So your mom taught you piano initially. Are you going to continue your family tradition and teach your daughter?
Oh, definitely. Yes, and she already started by, she would, just touch several notes on the piano, and she's not banging the piano. This is what I'm particularly happy about it. She would just play one note and really taste every note with a very tender touch, So I think I would teach her how to play the piano. Of course, I don't know if she's going to be a professional musician like I am, but I would prepare her. It's also good for her when she does something else in the future. Yes.
Currently, you work as a talent show judge for young pianists. What kind of advice can you offer both young pianists in general who want to make a career of it and young people who want to study abroad? For example, Chinese who want to come to America.
I'm very glad to see lots of young pianists with lots of passion towards the music. And I would say they need to love the music more and just keep doing what they are doing. And, I would love to see lots of people in the future go to China to learn the classical music. I really feel the hope is there in this generation. In our generation, we come to United States, we go to Europe to study. For the next generation, they probably go to China to learn the classical music.
Of course, one's goal is most likely to be the #1 pianist in the world, but there are many other ways that one can achieve as well. So I think, what he's doing, he's certainly on the right path.
If you as an artist could inspire people in one way, what would that be? What do you think, or what do you hope people will take from seeing your experience and seeing what you've done?
Very famous pianist Murray Pryor say something very interesting. He say, before everything, it is love. You have to love what you do. Then you can think about something else. So I really hope, particularly Chinese musicians, you should love the music more, like whatever you do in the Beethoven or in the Schumann or even modern music. You have to love it. Then you can discover everything starts from love.